girls all nighter.
Yes,
Not
girls.
for ladies.
Okay. For what age?
I think that it's by registration.
Okay. And just a reminder, after this program, we will have Dua Tawassul recited by Sayyid Ali Hakim, who has joined us. And inshallah, as we have continued in these days of doing dua for those who are oppressed, especially in the land of Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida alayhi salatu wassalam. So you are all invited to attend. As for the girls' social, a request is that for those that have signed up and registered, that social is for them and it's for girls, not for all ladies. Can I just request that we recite 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farjahum. Can I also request that at this time, before we start the seminar, to the brothers, please come as forward as possible. If you don't need the support of the wall, please do come forward. And inshallah, we will be starting. As you know, with these seminars, for those of you who were here for Sheikh Shabr Mehdi's seminar, it was more of a classroom environment. And we want to continue cultivating that environment for the seminars going forward. So try and be as close as possible. Sheikh will be asking you some questions as well. For those that are watching in at home, there will be a number on the screen. Many people have requested that this seminar be live streamed. So if you wish, the number is there, and it will be shown on the screen towards the end of the seminar. There are more chairs for the ladies in the overflow area by the side. If you can help yourself if you require any further chairs. Okay, we're good. And if there are any requests for chairs in the gent side, please let us know and the volunteers will help.
Okay. 15 minutes time bring the cars in.
Okay. And we've just had a request that if for anyone that's parked in the Bowling Green alley, please take your cars out because it'll be closing in the next 15 minutes. So with that, can I please ask us once again to recite 1 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Just a request, if we can close the doors, for those that wish to have their conversations, feel free to use the outside annex area. It's just a simple request, and this is to my younger brothers, especially the ones that are in the front talking right now. We organize these seminars, we have respected ulama that have dedicated their lives to the Islamic sciences, to the service of the Ahlul Bayt, and in preparing us for the return of the Imam of our time. Husaini Youth recommends that this seminar is 15 plus. And for that reason, especially to the younger brothers and sisters, if at any time you want to have a conversation and step outside, you can do that. And today the volunteers, especially in the boys' side, will be approaching you if you're disturbing the seminar, and you'll be kindly asked to leave. It's not a nice way to do it. It's not a nice way to do it, but I have to say this. The etiquette and adab, especially when our teachers are teaching. For now, I'd request that you turn off your phones if you're not using them for notes. And like I said, once again, we will be going around, because even in yesterday's seminar, we had to ask a few brothers to either step out or turn off their phones. So I don't want to start on a low note, but this is just a simple request, and we ask you that you take as much use from this seminar as possible. We've organized this seminar to follow on, and we're very deeply honored to have Sheikh Mirza Abbas, who is a teacher, a scholar, somebody who has dedicated his life to the learning of the Islamic sciences and has served across the world, different communities, and notably is head of the Al-Hikmah seminary, which we had a presentation about before. So this is a very rare opportunity that we get to sit in a class of the Sheikh, and this is a very pertinent topic too. So with that, without further delay, I'd like to welcome Maulana Mirza Abbas. Thereafter, we'll have a question and answer. Please welcome him and stand with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you. Good, good, good. Please sit down. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What does it say? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really wanted to jump into because I know it's been delayed a bit, but inshallah we'll finish it in time and we'll leave more room for Q&A inshallah. Thank you, Brother Zain. Thank you, the Peterborough Jamaat here. Thank you, my dear brothers who I see familiar faces here. And we have, mashallah, very prominent brothers here who have spent a good amount of time in the seminary in the Peterborough, mashallah. Brother Mirali here with us as well. Let's all begin with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So we are here for a seminar on marriage, right? No? I think that's what it says, right? What does it say? Marriage. So these young lads are so happy now, and look at their faces, They are all pink and red and they are blushing already. Yes, inshallah, soon. So lovely to see the youngsters here. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them the best future with the du'as of Yam Zaman. May all of them be protected, inshallah. And this all actually points out to the tarbiyat of the community here, of this masjid here, of Sunday school, dedication by all of you who have brought all of these young people here. May Allah bless you all as well and always keep all of you in the du'as of Imam Zaman, inshallah. Let's recite one loud salawat as well again. So we want to look at the value or the importance of the night of Qadr. We want to unlock it a bit, kind of familiarize ourselves. What is this night of Qadr, which we always been hearing right from this age. I remember myself, I used to go with my brother, with my cousin, and it used to feel so good, although I wasn't really sure that what's going on, but it was so good to be up all night. It was like one of those nights that you get to meet your friends and play and run and have some chai and food and mandazi and dokla. Yeah, so it was really fun to be up, and at the same time, it was fun to be with the elders, with the seniors. Doing ruku, doing namaz Jafar Tayyar. What that was, I was like 8 and 9, but doing long ruku and long zikr and all that. So it was one of the favorites. The night of Qadr was one of the favorites. The other nights which was favorite was the 9th night, the Ashur night, where you go out all night, you spend majalis and all that. And there's so much barakah and blessing in that, probably I didn't really understand at that time, but just being awake, just being with the family, with the brothers in the masjid, in the Husainiyas, because these places have a very special presence. They are special arwah, they are special spirits, they are special du'as. This makan has has a great value. Perhaps it wasn't, I'm saying, although in terms of its essence, every makan has its own value. There is something that the makan have done to deserve that, just like the ring that we wear as an aqiq, for example. But it multiplies by your presence, by your du'as, by your salawat. This place becomes one of the source of our connection to God. Our du'as are readily, easily connected and accepted. It kind of facilitates that environment. So these places are very important. That's why we should try to make our best to be present here, even though things are streamed online. That should be the last resort. But coming here itself is a great barakah and blessing. Now, what about marriage? The night of Qadr, is a very important night, as we all know, and you have heard, khairun min alf shahr and all that, So I want to have a bit of a different perspective in regards to the night of Qadr. Why do I call it as a marriage? See, Qadr is also derived from one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can anybody tell me what's that name? Qadir. It's one of the very powerful names of Allah. So it has that element of power, qudra. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that I would recommend many of you is that to spend a bit of time, invest a bit of time in educating oneself, ourselves, in regards to theological aspect, in regards to the divine nature of Allah, the attributes of Allah, which are considered as the attributes of action, the attributes of his zat, of his essence, so on and so forth. It kind of opens up the heart, And as a matter of fact, the time that we live in is quite advanced. And inshallah, we'll be speaking about the signs of zuhur and all that later on when I come. We'll dive deep into that discussion. See, many of us here, including myself, I'm pretty sure as well, because those who are at the age of 18 and stuff, which is my age, So we never heard as such Dua Ahad when we were growing up. We never heard as such Ziyarat Ashura when we were growing up. And many other duas that we have now. Yes, Dua Iftitah. Yes, we know Dua Iftitah. Namaz Jafar Tayyar, we know, for example. There are certain things that were known and practiced by our parents, by our youth at that time, right? But now, the duas that we are hearing, the different types of prayers that are recommended, are quite of a high caliber, of a high level. There's a reason for that, and that is because the intensity of the demonic sort of forces, or the intensity of materialism, or the attraction, or the pull of the gravity of the dunya, if you don't want to see in, good and evil as such, we want to see as in sort of materialism and the gravity and the, that is out there. It's far more greater than what it was for us when we were living, or what it was for our parents. So this means that it requires certain unveiling of deeper mantras that will help you guys, kind of become that shield so that your soul is protected, right? So that's why we see these things being surfaced up. Ziyarat Ashura, the Dua Ahad, and many of other duas that are there, right? Many irfani duas, or even irfani figures. Like just now our Sheikh was mentioning about Sayyid Ali Qazi. Never heard his name. We never heard his name when we were young, right? When I was young. Even when we entered the seminary, even before entering the seminary, for example, Hausa, we never heard of him. Even after entering, little bit. Our Bahjat prayers, Brother Mir Ali's knows, how many people used to come for Fajr prayer? There were like maybe 6-7 people, His Jamaat prayer wasn't crowded, but look how things changed before he passed away, right? So even individuals, even people, they are unknown personalities. But in order that Allah wants to, protect us, these things come to the surface, right? We are always evolving. This is one of the things that the beauty of Shia Islam is, that we are always evolving, and we should always evolve. We should never kind of be stagnated with events in the history, in the past or today. We should always evolve. And this evolution comes with a vision, with the understanding of the future. There were akhbaris, then usulis, and perhaps maybe something else. Okay? So this event comes for what? In order that we have a community, in order that we have the love of the Ahl Bayt, in order that we are ready for the Imam to help and support. This all evolution is for that. All of this evolution is for that. So we will always be, right, And we have to broaden our understanding and broaden our heart, right? I always mention this to my students. Individuals, people who are working for justice, for human trafficking, that person may be, Tom, Dick, and Harry, not Zayd, Amr, or Bakr, is working for Imam Zaman. There's no difference. That person is working for Imam Zaman. I mean, we need to kind of open up our heart and mind. Is there a stall from Najaf to Karbala talking about human trafficking? We don't. Why? Because we are kind of just looking at things with our perspective. We kind of satisfy ourselves with, the checkbox policy. Tonight is the night of Qadr, ghusl, being awake, 2 rakat prayer, Josh and Kabir, tick, tick, mashallah, I'm good. I'm satisfied, I'm happy, I'm doing good, right? Imam Zaman is happy with me. No, we got to come out of this box, think broader, right? So this is something, it should begin with small communities. And look, where we have reached now. It started very small. Peterborough was a small community, but now, mashallah, when I come here, it's so beautiful, it's so lovely to see all of these kids coming here to attend to this seminar of marriage, Yeah. So let's go back to our seminar of marriage. So I was mentioning that it's important to kind of every now and then look into some of these theological aspects, improve our understanding, because we have to always improve our knowledge and understanding and ma'rifat. And theology becomes one of the very great bases. And it is not that theological discussions are foreign in the sense that it is only in Arabic or it is only in Farsi. No, alhamdulillah, in our Sunday school, there's a bit that they do. Perhaps if somebody wants to, do it more, there's available, online. There are a lot of durus from Sheikh Shumali, all of them online, very something to tap into, look into. The books are translated, right? They are textbook based, so on and so forth. So it's good to know. And as a matter of fact, there's a very beautiful hadith from 8th Imam, Fazil Milani, in the book Islamic Theology, brings this hadith while discussing the irada. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have a sifat which is, the will, irada, right? He mentions a hadith from Imam Mirza alayhi salam where he says that if a person, Imam Mirza says, if a person does irada to be the sifat zat, he is a polytheist. Okay, so there's so much subtle and fine intricacies and realities in regards to the existence of God, which requires of us to engage, to learn, to educate ourselves. Because this learning and education, this journey of learning and education will always continue, in Barzakh and hereafter as well, right? Ya ayyuhal insan innaka kadihun ila rabbika kadhan famulaqi, right? That to meet Allah, we are all traveling and journeying. The more we meet, the more we know about Allah, the meeting will be more beautiful, will be more prosperous, we will enjoy it more. Like for example, all of these brothers, they really want to get married. That's why they came to this seminar, so they're going to enjoy more, right? So it's because they know what marriage is, right? That's why, Yeah, you can see this white beard and no hair. Right, so it's important, point number one, sort of enhancing ourselves with something a bit, taking a step further, not being in the comfort zone, and the events kind of pushes us to do that, to reflect that, these sacrifices, and it reminds us that we got to come out, we got to push ourselves a bit more, be stronger, look for our future and further sort of development of that evolution that needs to take place, right? So Laylatul Qadr, the night of Qadr, there's a relationship with the name of Qadir of Allah, right? Which is one of the sifat zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ilm is also one of the sifat of the zat, knowledge. The qualities of the zat, the essence of Allah, does not require any creation for us to understand. Like for example, Allah is Ghafoor, He is forgiving. There has to be a sin for Allah to forgive. So that means there has to be a creation or a Bande Khuda or an individual who commits a sin so that Allah is Ghafoor. So that needs to be there. Or rizq or raziq, there has to be, for example, a person that Allah gives rizq. So creation have to be there, right? So those are the qualities of the actions of Allah. But knowledge is one of the qualities, it doesn't really need a creation as such, to prove that, he is knowledgeable. It's one of his zat. That's how he is. And Qudrat of Allah is the same thing. He's all powerful. Doesn't really need anything in order to manifest, or in order to understand or come to terms to understand that. And as a matter of fact, the Qudrat of Allah, Allah being Qadir, is nothing but the first manifestation of that knowledge. If I have knowledge, then I will be able to do things. So the power is seen, that the Qudrat is seen because of the knowledge. Then I'll do something that is perfect, for example. So there's a beautiful sort of connection of these names, and we take these names, alhamdulillah, on the night of Qadr in the Joshan-e-Kabir, right? So it's worth to kind of reflect a bit more. I think one of the things that our Sunday school curriculum should have is memorization of the names of Allah. To memorize all of the names. Maybe they might be doing it, but I'm just saying, because when I was teaching in Sunday school, it wasn't there. We are talking about 1940s. That's just kidding. So it's important to have that. Names of Allah, names of the surahs of the Quran. 114 surahs are there. What are their names of it? It's good to have that, because Night of Qadr is also related to the Quran. So another point in regards to the Quran. It's actually, now when we look at why do I call it marriage? Because there are certain names of Allah known as the Asma' Jalal, the sovereign names of Allah. They are Jalali. Okay. And there are certain names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which are known as the Asma' Jamali, the beautiful names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Jalal and Jamal. This sort of reality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He's Qahhar, and at the same time He's Kareem. The Qahhariyat of Allah, the vengeance aspect of Allah, is the Jalal of Allah. The Kareem, the generosity and the Rahimiyat, aspect is the Jamal, and the beauty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a combination of that, which we tend to see that once again, if you want to look at out of the box, you tend to see sort of these realities being unfolded by other Far Eastern religions as well. You have the yin and yang. The yin and yang have that aspect of the Jalal and Jamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that is another something that is good to kind of consider and look into. Some of the Far Eastern religions have a lot of philosophy. And one of the closest that comes to Shi'i mysticism is Taoism. There's a very nice book by Toshiko Murata called The Tao of Islam. That's a nice book looking into gender roles, looking into, the Jamal being the feminine reality and the Jalal being the masculine reality. But at the same time, having said that, the Jalal, the inner reality of the Jalal is the femininity, is the Jamal. And the inner reality of the, feminine side inside is the Jalal. That's why, we are outside Jalal. When we go inside, we are just Jamal, because the Jalal is there. Let's have a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Right. So now it's actually, there are a lot of great scholars in the past. You may have heard the names. Once again, like I said, these names are kind of popping up, coming to the surface. These names were taboo, and sometimes even today, these names are heavily criticized. But at the same time, there's always a difference of opinion in regards to these personalities. For example, Muhyiddin ibn Arabi. You may have heard. Have you heard of his name? Have you heard of Ibn Arabi? No, we hear people. And it's one of the personalities, as you may have seen, positive opinion about him and negative opinion about him as well. But from the school that, especially those Urafa and Shaykh Mutahari and Agha Hassan Zadeh Amali, Agha Jawadi Amali, all of these people, they extensively praise him in terms of his insight, in terms of the knowledge that he has provided, however with criticism. All of his works are looked or are determined or are taught in the seminaries with the help of the du'as of Saif Sajjadiya, with the khutbat of Amirul Mu'mineen, with the du'as of Masumin and the eyes of the Quran. So they have a critical sort of approach towards his text, towards his findings, towards his understanding. In any case, it's one of the names that is quite famous. For example, when he talks about Jalal and Jamal and the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a risala by him on unveiling the names. And there are many scholars who have written unveiling the names of Allah. What are they, the reality of it, of those and all that. So he says is actually, and it makes sense as well, that it is not like, separation in Jalal and Jamal as such. It cannot be. Then that will be duality. We believe in Tawheed. So Allah, at the same time, He is Rahman and Rahim. At the same time, He is Qahhar. At the same time, He is Qadir. It's not like two different things, right? So, the creation that Allah have created is love, is Rahmaniyat, right? As it is creation and is love and is Rahmaniyat of Allah, mercy of Allah, but inside that is the Qudrat of Allah, it is the Jalal of Allah, which perhaps in a way will not be possible to speak as if that Qudrat was not there, the creation may not have been there, so to speak, But for Allah, it's not like that. He is Qadir, at the same time, He is Rahim. It's not like He is, 51% Qadir or 49%. No, it's exactly the same. So the night of Qadr becomes a night of marriage of the Jalal and Jamal of Allah. It's a marriage. It's a very unique opportunity that where you see the manifestation of the Jalal and Jamal at the same time, right? So one have to kind of look for these times or these sort of opportunities and to throw ourselves in those hours where who doesn't want to go to a marriage, we all go to marriages, right? We love to go to marriages, right? So this is like a marriage of these two reality of the Jalal and Jamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taking place. And usually when there is marriage, there is celebration, being awake at night, so on and so forth, right? There's a joy, right? Because there's forgiveness. There's forgiveness on the night of Qadr, right? Imagine that if somebody wants to slate out everything of the past and have everything for the future, it is this night. It's about 83 years or more. Khayrun min alfi shahr, right? So that one night is like whatever we have done, it's wiped out, it's gone. I'm fresh. And what is supposed to be coming, it's already destined. I can basically organize that on that night. I mean, if you ask somebody that do you want one thing that you ever wanted in your life or you want that you shouldn't have done in the past? Everybody will have something, right? I wish I should have done this, or I wish I achieved this. The measure of that, that's why it's Qadr. Qadr is also measurement. One of the meaning of the night of Qadr is a night of measurement, where the destiny of ours are measured, because there is وَإِن مِّن شَيْءٍ إِنْدَنَا خَزَائِنٌ. There are treasures, as the ayah of the Quran says, near Allah. From this treasure, بِقَدْرِ مَعْلُوم, a measured amount is destined. So it is that night as well. So it is that night where whatever we have done in the past, can be completely wiped out. And whatever of our future, the best that we want, we will be able to achieve. Right. So it's a marriage of the Jalal and Jamal taking place at that night. The manifestation of perhaps all of the Asma Jalali wa Jamali taking place on that night. We also mentioned just in the margin, we say La yawmuk yawmuk Abu Abdullah. There's no day like the day of Abu Abdullah. Because that day is also have this element where you have the manifestation, reflection of the Jalal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the same time Jamal of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which becomes really beautiful, which echoes in the statement of Hazrat Zainab salamullah alayha. I saw nothing. Why is that? Because it is that marriage. Marriage is beautiful. So she's expressing that. So what we are trying to do here is that we have to come to that vision. We want to have this sort of a marriage with Allah, with that relationship of love, with that relationship of appreciation of these realities which are unfolding, with what is required of us, right? Yes, we go to marriage, but that doesn't mean that we're gonna, have party, dancing, mixing, so on and so forth, right? No, with our, the way we are supposed to be doing. It's Ashura. Muhammad Husaini Tehrani is a student of Allama Tabatabai. His books are also translated. It's in English as well. One of his books is Ruh Mujarrad, the immaterial soul, which ICAS Press have translated it. It's quite a deep kind of irfani text, but not bad to have it, to kind of go through maybe some pages here and there. And there is another book of his which is known as The Shining Sun, which he wrote in regards to Allama Tabatabai. It's an interview with Allama Tabatabai about different things, as our Sheikh was mentioning about Sayyid Qazi, so on and so forth. You will find some of that type of material in there. Muhammad Hussain, he says that the day of Ashura is the day of celebration because it's the success of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, right? But the point is understanding that. But this doesn't mean that I will be, having, qawali or, like food and enjoy and pleasure. We know that the ulama on the day of, for first 10 days or sometimes even 2 months and 8 days, they did not even meet. They eat meat. And we know our grandmothers and grandparents, they will not sleep on the bed, they will sleep on the floor. And the ulama in the past, although they are saying it's a celebration, but it's a joy and celebration in a different way. The same way, perhaps the way Hazrat Zainab said it was beautiful, right? So we have to understand that. So what I'm trying to say is that, we have to come to have this type of vision and closeness and understanding of the reality. And this becomes very beautiful. This becomes something we will always be engaging with. We'll always be kind of speaking to Allah, discussing these things. And Allah keeps on opening our heart. As they say that Allah is hidden behind 70,000 veils. And then He will unveil Himself gradually and gradually when we try. We have to try, right? We have to have that theological basis, maybe a bit of reading of, philosophy, mysticism here and there. And also our Maulanas, Shuyukh, they must kind of, speak a little bit about it. Alhamdulillah, the Sheikh that we have, the Majlis I attended, have that element there. It's good, that kind of give us something that maybe we may not have that much of a capacity to take, but it's important to bring these things out. I mentioned this because there was a... I always go in tangents, Shahabadi, who was a teacher of Imam Khomeini. I'll make it very briefly. The reference is in his tafsir. There's a tafsir of Imam Khomeini of Surah Hamd, translated by Professor Hamid Algar in the book Islam and Revolution. Okay, if you kind of look into that book, you would find that tafsir. And this he mentions in the last jalase, in the last session. He gave 4 lectures, and they stopped him after that. There's a reason for him being stopped, not allowed to speak and give tafsir, right? He's known as the head of the state, but they still stopped him, right? So here in that he says there was a few merchants who came from Tehran to meet Shahabadi. Shahabadi was a philosopher, was an arif, right? They say that Shahabadi knew Tahlul Arz, and one of the things that he emphasized was Du'a Tawassul. Reading Du'a Tawassul a lot will help a person to do Tahlul Arz. So here, Shahabadi was there. Imam Khomeini was young. He may be 27 or something. And these merchants, when they came to Shahabadi, and Shahabadi started speaking about philosophy and irfan, right? And this was a taboo at that time. It was so much taboo that, people used to carry philosophy books without its cover. They would cover it in a newspaper or something because people didn't really like them, right? So Shahabadi was mentioning these things. And Imam Khomeini, after they left, Imam Khomeini said, these words, these kufriyat, these were known as kufr. Falsafa or irfan was known as kufr. And even now, today, we hear it, here and there on YouTube or in majalis, some scholars kind of criticize that, right? So he said, these kufriyat, for these people, you are mentioning these sort of kufriyat for these people. So Shahabadi said, بگذار این کفریات به گوش اینا برسد. Leave it. Let these kufriyat fall on these ears. Because at least these kufriyat will bring them back to Islam. It's something new, something different, something kufr. You know, it's like, wow, this is very strange. This man is speaking like, everything was beautiful in the plain of Karbala. Even shimmer was beautiful. He said, what? If somebody hears this, is going to start hitting me and muqassir, I don't know, lanati and all that, they'll kick me out, right? But this is kufr in a way, right? But this is something, the time that we live in needs that kind of push to give them something very sort of, attract them to Islam and deen, what we have out there. There are many things that, it's about marriage, we could speak about some of the, very unique sort of aspect. We have, younger kids, which we cannot really discuss, although it's plus 15. But these guys are so eager to get married. That's why they are here, it seems. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Right. So it's actually that. Now, that's one aspect, right? So it's that night, right? It's that night, and we have to be awake. One of the things that we need to be awake.
Not about time.
Yes.
Just,
yes.
About the bowling alley. If anyone, there's number plates.
Are we going for the bowling?
No, we're not going for bowling.
I thought
soon. Anyone that's put, please, they're putting up the number plates on the screen. We don't want to disturb Sheikh, but we had mentioned this, that bowling alley, the car park volunteers are waiting on 2 cars. So if they're yours, please discreetly leave. We'll just think you're going for a little break. Thank you.
So no bowling?
No bowling.
Oh.
Not yet.
Sorry, okay. Yes, so that's one. The other thing is that if you look at time, time as this existential reality of time. What is time? How do we measure time? How do you anybody, physics? We have chemists here, chemistry major, a lot of people, pharmacists, and time as in how do we measure time? How we extract time? It's a, yeah, go ahead. Is traveling of a body from place A to B. When something travels from place A to B, we say that, okay, this is how we kind of measure. It's usually physical constellations, right? The sun, movement of the sun, that's how we calculate the time. Something physical has to move, kind of. From that, we kind of calculate time. Jawad Amili has a very unique and beautiful twist to this reality of time. And that is, there's a clip on YouTube. If you put it, as he mentions very beautifully, obviously. His voice, his style. There is a YouTube channel called Ilham Magazine. And they tend to have certain very good, interesting clips from our great ulama, but they also have, they asked for a feedback from me, Ilham Magazine. I just said, just dedicate this to the Ayatullahs and great ulama. Don't bring in sort of young ulama there, but they do have some young people as well. But Ilham Magazine on YouTube have beautiful clips of Aghay Hassan Zadeh Amali, Aghay Jawad Amali, Aghay Fatiminia, Aghay Misbah Yazdi, Ayatollah, Bahjat, so on and so forth. In one of the clips, you may find, just put in like Jawad Amali and time, you'll get it, there's a captions there. But he says that, we measure time 365 days when the sun goes around the sun, when the sun goes around the earth, right? Yeah? Yeah, no, yes. They will execute me in Oxford Square. That's what they did. They know the Christians in the past, in the 16th century, they were saying that the earth is the center of the earth and the sun goes around, and they say, no, Galileo discovered the Copernicus and all that, and they executed the priest. That's where the separation of religion and state, and the secularism kind of started at that time. There's a nice book by Sayyid Hussein Nasr. One of my bad habits is that I always give you references of books, and I recommend that you kind of buy them. And how many books I mentioned so far? The Tao of Islam, and Tafsir, which is Islam and Revolution of Algar. And what do you call, I just mentioned now, which one I just mentioned? Yeah. Young Muslim Guide to the Modern World. Please have this book, and this should be part of the Sunday school curriculum for plus 15, 17 years. Agha Nasr is a very great writer. Make sure that you kind of look into his books and his works. Try to kind of reflect in terms of the deeper understanding of Islam. I think it's time that we kind of engage with this type of material. It's very important. The Young Muslim Guide to the Modern World, kind of it looks into how things how ulum, how sciences kind of change. In Islam, there's no such thing as secularism. Everything was always together. The science and also religious sciences, they were together. Ibn Sina, the best of scientists, but the best of philosopher, right? For example, Maulana Rumi, the best of poet, but at the same time the best of faqih, the best of theologian and jurist, right? So it was all of the ulum and sciences, mathematician, always, what do you call this, the students of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, so on and so forth, and even afterward, it was always together. It always the secularism, is from Renaissance, where they divided the religion, and still the same for us, and that's what. Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, when he will come, all of the ulum and sciences will be together. And that's kind of like a model where the ulama and the scholars have spoken in the past, and kind of Imam Khomeini tried to kind of practically implement that, have that sort of form of governance. Anyways, so that's a good book to look into. So Jawadi says is a physical sort of movement of the earth around the sun makes it a year for me. Every time it goes one circle to 2 years, 3 circles. So far for me, it's like, 25 circles. Yeah. Why do you guys keep on laughing when I say maybe I thought I will say 18, you will not laugh. Now I'm saying 25, you guys are still laughing. So I have to increase the number then. So if the earth have gone around, in terms of the sun for 25, 30, 40, whatever, that determines my age. But he says, is this really my age? The age is actually how much I have understood God. There could be a person at the age of 80, but in terms of understanding is just a year old or 2 year old. Doesn't have that understanding. So the age is determined by the ma'rifat, by the value that we have in regards to the reality and existence. It's not this physical sort of movement of planetary bodies, right? So time is something that we measure by two physical sort of point A to point B. That's where we extract time. So that means that if there is no physical sort of, hypothetically speaking, reality existing, then there is no time. That's why in Barzakh there is no time as such. And when we go in space to begin with, for example, once again, the time is is measured in a very different context as such. It's light years. It's with light, so to speak, right? Here, it's more of a horizontal sort of measurement of time, right? And space also, there's no direction as such. Left, right, north, south, so to speak, right? In Barzakh, on a higher level, right? Because there are grades of creation, and everything is connected. Now, time. Is the value of the time is because of that physical reality. Now, the highest form of that physical nature that perhaps could have taken place is for the manifestation or the descent of the highest immaterial reality to the physical nature. I mean, it's like a combination of impossible, combination of two things, which is basically impossible, which is like the Quran, which is the word of Allah. Lawh Mahfuz, so on and so forth, and then the night of Qadr and the earth. Right? It's a combination of that. That is taking place, and that becomes the night of Qadr. Right? It's like a time and space wherever we are, so to speak, a time where an impossibility have happened, and that is nothing due to the heart of Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he managed to download that, he managed to bring that, right, and that has taken place on the night of Qadr. And that time have become unique because of these manifestations in that sort of period have taken place. That is why, if you read in Dua Sabah or in Dua Mashlul as well, that we say, "Oh Allah, for the sake of the tajalli that took place on the mountain of Tur for Musa." Because that hour, on that makan, that has taken place. Those manifestations have taken place, which have become very valuable. That makan have become valuable, that time have become valuable, right? Or for example, on the dua of the 27th night in Rajab, we recite, Allahumma inni as'aluka bit tajalli al-azam. Oh Allah, for the sake of the theophany, which is azam, which is the greatest, that have taken place on that 27th night, which is Iqra starts, right? The night of Qadr is of that sort of caliber, material reality, to the highest level, right? The physical reality, truth, existence means the highest level of material reality. So now the physical reality must also have the receptive nature to download that. That becomes the heart of Imam Zaman, to be the highest level in terms of the materiality. You see, because only that heart have that physical heart have that materiality to really contain that. And from their grades, it is the hearts of the mu'mineen. The hearts of the mu'mineen needs to be in that presence, right? Motionless, because the movement is taking place. We have to be motionless. The only time I'm motionless is that where I have stepped on my ego completely, where I don't exist. Mukhbitin, ikhbat, in Ziyarat Aminullah, and also on the 15th day dua, 16th day dua, we recited, "Oh Allah, make me from those who are the mukhbitin, from ikhbat." Ikhbat is actually, because Arabic language is so sweet, it kind of describes the natural phenomena, which is a camel. When worms go inside the ear of a camel, it cannot do anything. So it goes and lies down. A bird comes in and picks those worms. If the camel moves, he's in trouble. So ikhbat is that, motionless. And that revelation, should take place. That divine descent must happen. Right? So we sometimes say that we get too excited. We have to do this. So many amals are there. Right? So many, especially, at least we have a decent amount of time when it's in summer. England, we don't have enough time, right? Apart from that, there's so many things. But the point is that actually that motionless, that emptying, which Sheikh was mentioning earlier as well, that one salawat is enough, as a matter of fact, to a certain degree. Agha Jawadi also says that, this astaghfirullah 1,000 times, 70 times is for all sawab. But one, just say, "Oh Allah, I am here." That's all it's needed. "Oh Allah, I am here." Everything will be taken care. All of 70 times, 100 times is okay, you'll get the reward. Right? But the reality, the truth of the matter, the crux of the matter is that we have to have that heart, that I'm here. So that sort of motion, ikhbat is that. So we have to have that sort of, what do you call, way towards that night. Yes, brother. I usually teach 1 hour and 50 minutes, and maybe sometimes 2 hours and 15 minutes. So that's how I'm used to. I'm sorry. And especially that becomes a night of Qadr if that be in a Hoja center. Because and it is that's how it's supposed to be. Value of time. Qadr means valuing time. They know how to value time. And that's why, mashallah, we have all of these youngsters here who value time. Mashallah, may Allah bless you all.
I just want to give an opportunity if there are questions as well. So
yes, sure, we can. Yeah, sure.
And we'll do questions.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So we have 5 minutes. So we have that sort of element, that time has become valuable. The night of Qadr have become valuable because of the presence of the names of Allah. Now, one of the ways that we connect to these names is by reciting Joshan Kabir. You have these names hanging here, my name's going up there. There's a connection taking place. By chanting those names, I'm elevating my soul. So, as I said, that material, that heart of a mu'min is needed. The heart of Imam Zaman, that is needed. So when I'm chanting that, my soul is going higher. Salat Me'rajul Mu'min, right, is the uruj of the soul, right? So when I chant these names, Dua Mujir, names of Joshan Kabir, I am elevating myself. Now imagine if I had a relationship with that name. We have to create that relationship with Joshan Kabir. We have to create that relationship with Munajat-e-Shabaniya. These du'as, we have to create that relationship, constantly repeating, reciting, every now and then looking the translation of it, these names, what these names are, how these names affect, what is the, effect of these names, what will happen to my soul. Makarimul Akhlaq, Dua Makarimul Akhlaq also we recite on the night of Qadr, is mustahab to recite. So that relationship we have to build with these du'as. And when we create that relationship and we make friends with these du'as, they, reply to us. They help us. They become our friend to take our nafs higher. That's why these Sufi masters, they tend to chant these names over and over again, and they create that relationship and they get into that hal, so to speak. They just completely get into a different realm, and the Masumin, they have prescribed certain names, right? They have, du'as, names have been prescribed by them, which we have a treasure of that. Munajat-e-Shabaniya is one of the treasures of the treasures. I remember I had a friend from Singapore, Muhammad Bakr. Now he moved to Indonesia, sorry. He used to work for the Iranian embassy because he knew Farsi, very briefly. He used to, and then one of the great Sufi Sheikh in Singapore, Naqshbandi tariqa or some tariqa, but a great Sufi Sheikh who wasn't a Shi'i as such, but a Sufi Sheikh master. He goes to get a visa for Iran. He doesn't know Farsi interpretation, all that. Time for namaz comes. So I'm making very fast. I'm doing 2.0 here, or 4.0 actually. So he brings him to the place Musalla in the embassy. There's always a place there to pray, right? And then he he picks up Mafati, and he opens up his Joshan Kabir there. He was shocked. He said, Joshan Kabir, what is this? This is Mafati. Everybody have it. Right? But he says that when we reach to a certain stage of maqam, in terms of our manaviyat, our Sheikh gives this Joshan Kabir to recite. It's not given just like that. But because of the blessing of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam we have, it's like that. So it is there, but for us to, create that relationship, with these names, with Joshan Kabir and Munajat-e-Shabaniya, these is very much required. Then that sweet sort of, you could literally feel the physical joy and pleasure beginning with the taste of fruits in your mouth when you start reciting and engaging with them. And then you get, different, feeling in terms of your body and lightness that you feel. Marriage, right? That's what it is, yeah. So Joshan Kabir, these names on that night when I chant, when I recite, I'm elevating and connecting to those names where there's descent of the Jalal and Jamal on that night. So that meeting, union is taking place, and that's what our deen is all about. It's about tawheed, it's about union, it's about, that marriage, right? So inshallah, we hope and pray that this night be a very special night of meeting of ours with Allah and with our destiny through Imam al-Asr, Sahib al-Zaman, inshallah, for all of the lovers of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, no matter where they live in this world. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for them and give them the bright, powerful future, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Sorry, brother. Old man, I cannot see. I see some noor, but I cannot really figure it out. Let me see who that. Oh, it's Brother Nabil, inshallah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salawat ala Muhammad. Ya Allah.
I think we've had quite an intense hour. We've gone through different realms, Sheikh. Alhamdulillah. And if anything, I think we're just touching the surface, so to speak, and there's so many different things that we can expand upon. And for the purpose of the Q&A as well, the questions, if you wish to WhatsApp them, you can send them through, and then I'll read them, and then I'll open it up to the floor. So first I'll just start off with a few of the questions which are arising from the seminar itself. So starting off, Sheikh, just an anecdote. When we started the seminar, our sisters complained it was too hot. And then they said it's too cold when we turned on the AC.
Yes.
So now we have to put it back up and sort out the temperature and do temperature control. But it shows you that we're all very subjective. Some find it too hot, some will find it too cold. The experience of Laylatul Qadr, it's one night, everyone experiences it. But we have different subjectivities to it.
Yes.
So the first question is...
But how the sisters understand, that's the way it is.
That's the way it is. That's the truth.
Yeah. And
But
as a matter of fact, they have a priority in that.
They
being
have
being a feminine.
Yeah, so
Because-
this is what I
yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
get to. Not that the sisters are right, but around, we have different sifats of Allah that we relate to as individuals. But then we have these du'as or a'mal programs where collectively we're going into it. How do we take something which is done in collective, but also make the night of Qadr something very personal and subjective to yourself? How do you open your heart in that process?
The amal that we usually perform in Jamaat, in groups, for example, on the night of Qadr or Thursday nights and all that, it's good, but at the same time we have to have our own sort of individual hour where there is, just myself and Allah, ourselves and nobody else. That is very important. Time and time again we see that, in the lives of the Masumin alayhim salam. It's a bit of a pretty new kind of phenomena where we see, Dua Kumail being recited in like a Jamaat. I mean, Imam Ali would go in the desert and by himself alone, like was either just Kumail and him, for instance. We don't see as being recited like in a group and a Jamaat, which kind of, it happened, it kind of evolved as we were talking about evolution. Perhaps we kind of find some of our Ahl Sunnah brothers doing Taraweeh, as in Jamaat, which was mustahab but performed in a Jamaat. So it may have that kind of, substance to it. But keeping that in mind, we have to have, personal, individual time slots, so to speak, to reflect upon of the past and of the future, being mindful, of the past, of the future, of the present and the moment, for example, at that very hour, that one what is going through. Yes, that's if that answers the question. Yeah. So it's important to have, an hour. This could be even, for example, because this is not usually performed, the prayer of Bibi Fatima Zahra Salamullah alayha, because that night is symbolized as her. Once again, as when I said, females or our sisters have a priority in that. It's actually based upon what Agha Jawadi mentions there's a book of his called Zandar Aine Jalal wa Jamal, Women in the Mirror of the Jalal and Jamal. in which he mentions that ladies or sisters have a greater priority of reaching Allah because they are pure heart. They have the heart. The journey to Allah is the journey of the heart rather than the journey of the aql, right? It was Rasulullah. It's actually qalb salim. The Quran talks about qalb salim on the Day of Judgment. The Quran does not talk about aql salim. It says a qalb salim. So if we take Jibreel as the aql Rasul, but Rasul went above than the Sidratul Muntaha, which is the qalb Rasul went, which is the heart of Rasul. So our sisters or women tend to have the element of heart, qalb more. So he says, Jawadi says, so they have a priority in reaching swiftly and quicker to Allah. So if they ask you to turn the heating off, do so, and whenever the heating, because they can basically, measure the temperature up there,
Thank you. You saved me from getting cancelled. But then this leads us on to a question which is coming from Brother Owen Sayyid, and he says that, my question is, when we talk about isolation, is there a specific action which one should do when alone with Allah on Laylatul Qadr? We only have a few hours, for example. And,
yes, like the night, the Salat of Fatimatu Zahra Salamu Alayha is really good.
And what is that Salat?
So, Ya Fatimatu Aghisini, we say 510 times. Yeah, 2 rakat prayer. And then you go in sajda and you recite Ya Fatimatu Aghisini 100 times. 100 times, 100 times, 100 times, 110 times in the last. So while in sajda, it's in mafati, you can have a look. And then you recite 100 times Ya Fatima, Ya Maulati, Ya Fatima tu Aghisini, 100 times, or Aghisni, and then 100 times on the left in the sajda, then right again, in the middle again, and then left again, and then finally the final sajda. So it's a very highly recommended prayer by the ulama of akhlaq to recite because of the night being symbolized as Bibi Fatima Zahra. So connecting to her perhaps will bring that hour of mindfulness and inshallah.
We have another question in regards to the word tanazzalu. What does this mean in reference to Qadr?
It's the perpetual descent of the angels and the ruh on that night. It's something that continues, not during the time of the Prophet, or not before the Prophet, or not even after the Prophet, because the night of Qadr is the kun itself. Kun is a nuzul, from the consciousness of Allah. Consciousness is basically silence, and the kun is the first thing that came out, and that kun is the night of Qadr. And that kun contains everything. Kun fayakun, right? That kun contains, so it's symbolized as the night of Qadr. That kun is symbolized as the night of Qadr because it contains everything in it. Till the Day of Judgment, whatever is supposed to be unfolded, for example, and beyond, it's in that kun. So that nuzul, tanazzalul, have that element of a perpetual descent, continuity of the nuzul, of the ruh, malaike, angels, who are all symbolized as different levels of manifestation of the names of Allah Himself, which contains within them the destiny of ours, our future, our Jannah, our Barzakh, our hereafter. Yeah.
And on the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the question is, why do we need to call upon these different names of the sifat, both feminine and masculine traits of Allah, when Allah is Allah? Surely I can just say Ya Allah and it encompasses all of.
It's the extent of our expansion of our heart. Alam nashra laka sadrak, right? So if I just say Allah, and I may be able to visualize or understand maybe 5-10 sifats of Allah. But if I increase my knowledge and understanding, then I will be knowing more awsaf and qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then I say Allah. After knowing those, it's different than I just saying Allah. It's very natural, right? I mean, if I know 4 sifat, I say Allah, and I'm just imagining these 4 sifat of Allah within it. But if I have more understanding or more awsaf, like 99 or maybe more, right? Then when I say Allah, then everything is contained in that Allah, when I'm saying that Allah. That's one aspect. There are other aspects as well, because there's a hadith of the Prophet which says that make your akhlaq like the akhlaq of Allah. The Prophet says, make your akhlaq like the akhlaq of Allah. So what is the akhlaq of Allah? He's Ghafoor, He's Rahim, He's, Khaliq, He's Alim, all of that. So we have to make our qualities, our akhlaq, like we have to become Khaliq, we have to become Kareem, we have to become all of that, we have to increase that. So by knowing those names, we are actually improving, our qualities,
So we have a question here from Brother Mehdi Shah. He says, I have a question regarding the descending of the angels, including Angel Jibreel. As you mentioned, there's this infinite descent. Where do they descend to? What exactly is their role on this night? And to follow on from that question as well, you mentioned that this descending is coming to the heart of Imam al-Hujjah. How does it descend upon the mu'mineen thereafter?
There's another hadith in Usul al-Kafi which says on every Thursday night a door of knowledge opens towards the heart of the 12th Imam, and through that the followers of the 12th Imam benefit. So if Imam's knowledge and nuzul becomes beneficial, that's when the sun will rise, the day will come. So it will naturally benefit the mu'mineen who are in connection and who are invoking the 12th Imam. So the nuzul takes place on the heart, like as we said, it requires that sort of purity of the heart to connect to that divine sort of descent of things in the physical sense. So if one is in line with that, being a mu'min, naturally that name of mu'min, which is the name of Allah, also connects, which contains all of the other names within it as well. So the greatest of all mu'min is Allah, and then it's Imam Zaman, and then after the mu'minin. So it becomes like a unity, a vertical unity of things.
And given the nature of what is currently taking place in the world, what is different or what is more important about this night of Qadr?
Like I said, it's an evolution. We always be evolving. Whatsoever is happening or happened is for the preparation of the reappearance of the 12th. May Allah haste His reappearance, inshallah. And it's a test, it's an imtihan. And whenever there is a need of such an event, such an unfolding, in order to protect those principles, in order to protect that spirituality, Allah kind of provides that, and those who are awake and those who are not awake, they are awakened by it, and we have seen this gradual awakening taking place all across, with Muslims and non-Muslims and everybody, and it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer, so it is. As they say, وَبَاطِنُهُ فِيهِ رَحْمَةٌ, within the batin, within inside of it is nothing but mercy and of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah.
Okay, so we do have more questions coming in, but I do want to afford, let's say you had your hand up. Do you still have your question?
Yeah. Text the question. I'll read it out. Salam Sheikh, now you mentioned the works of Ibn Arabi and how our scholars have studied aspects of it in lieu of the view of Mafatih al-Jinan or with tafsir. Sunni scholars also studied Nahj al-Balagha or have studied Nahj al-Balagha under the tafsir of Ibn al-Hadid. Naqshbandi Sufis amazingly have Dua Joshan al-Kabir as part of their learning and awareness of the later stages. How do we conciliate successfully in the light of these traditional crossovers in modern times, especially with what is happening on the world stage currently, i.e. in lieu of the axis of resistance as an example?
So those asma, those names in relation to what's happening?
Yeah, what was
the sharing?
my general question was, when I had my hand up, was I found it fascinating.
Yes.
You mentioned how we basically just have how Ibn Arabi is kind of like studied amongst Shia scholars, number one. And number two, how Nahj al-Balagha has been studied and written about by Sunni scholars. And then you mentioned Dua Joshna Kabir via the Naqshbandi Sufi Silsila. They've actually got that, right? Which belongs to us. And I'm just saying that, like, in the light of that, we've got so much in common. Right, number one. Number two, with what's happening in the world today, you know, with the awareness of, like, the axis of resistance and our great scholar, Sheikh Sayyid Khamenei. How do we kind of like conciliate further? How do we kind of
got it.
Use of that, so to speak?
I think, like I said, the question is of evolution, the question of evolving. We are still stuck in colors, we are still stuck in forms, we are still stuck in rituals, and we are satisfying ourselves. And we are limiting these things that we are limiting. We are becoming the hurdle itself for the treasures that have been transferred to us from the Ahl Bayt by performing certain ritualistic things that were good, that were required for a time in order to preserve those sciences, those principles. But it is required that we don't get stuck with those sort of rituals, or not that we don't perform, but to think in a greater way that what is, how to connect these things on the level of principles, not on the level of just names and forms and practices. So once we do that, for example, today when you look at our schools, our secular schools, our kids, my children are more aware of what racism is than what I was. And even today, for example, I might say something like, oh, chapta, okay, oh, kala. You know, my kids are really upset and they don't even smile at that. So this means that, and this is what Imam Zaman wants, right? So there are people who are working in order to bring that inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, that taqwa, that perhaps they may not be outwardly speaking, Amr, Zaid, or Jafar, or Hussein, or or Ali, but they may be Mike or Michael or George or whatever, right? So the question is connecting and opening our heart to them on whatever level that they are. That is important. That is something that we have to do. Yeah.
So we have a question here.
Assalamu alaikum. So on the basis of evolving and connecting with God, living in the West, we're very time deficient. We don't have much time. We're running around. We've got lots of things to do. We've got children in university who are under pressure of performing, and etc. If there was 2 golden nuggets that you could give, or 3, that when we have nights of Amal, we try and cram in as much as possible, and sometimes it becomes repetitive. But if there was 1 or 2 things that you said that would be the most valuable to do, that would give you a connection more, if there was 1 or 2 things that you would recommend with people with time deficiencies, etc., what would you recommend?
Yeah, it's a good, very tough question. The first thing came to my mind, I cannot say that. If my wife and children are watching on the live stream, I'll be in trouble. Giving time to the family. Yeah. That's very important. And that will bring a lot of barakah and blessing. Yes. I think that's one of the things that one should be focused on, discussing with them what they have studied in school even, whether that be in their RE class, especially RE, because I will not be able to, or we will not be able to, unless our background, speak about chemistry or mathematics, but at least in RE, for instance, and And because to our philosophy, because there are doubts being planted in their hearts, and not like planted, but this is natural. That's how the secular education is. Not to blame them as such, because they, they were taught that way, and they're teaching it, as well. Because the Islamic methodology of teaching even chemistry and mathematics and all that will be very different, because all of these have its own effect upon our children. The way they are taught chemistry, the way they are taught physics. But we may be saying, well, this is physics. I mean, it's 2 + 2 is 4. Yes, it is. But at the same time, there is a reason the way it's been delivered according to the psychology of the mind, which is kind of push our kids towards easily accepting evolution as in Darwinism. You see. And the mind will function, or when this adult or this child will eventually, when it becomes adult, will have sort of some religious background, but at the same time, in terms of calculating things, will be very materialistic, right? So that needs a bit of unknotting that when we speak to our kids and children, taking them out, bowling. Yeah, what happened? I would even go. I would even be critical enough. I know, but engaging them in music, educating them that they learn music, art, humanities. These are very important subjects that we are forgetting. Unfortunately, we are pushing them to in chemistry and medicine, these type of majors. That's good too, but at the same time, these things are there too. Yeah. So family, I would say. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Family is. I know you're getting quite tired.
Yeah, my family is waiting.
We do have 1 or 2 final questions, inshallah. There's 2 the questions here. So first, I'll start with this. If destiny is written on Laylatul Qadr, how can dua change destiny?
Yes. There are, this is a bit technical, theological. There is a destiny that can be changed by du'as and sadaqah and connecting to the kin, relationship, good akhlaq. All of these things affect on our destiny. First and foremost, we are fully unaware of what my destiny is as such. So therefore, as the hadith and riwayat kind of indicates that the destiny can be changed with these things, so I will be engaging in these things. And regardless of when I die, if I have done something good, I will see that in barzakh. So destiny is changed for me, right? If I give a charity now and die tomorrow, thinking that the destiny will be changed, my destiny have changed or not? Technically speaking, it has changed. Because in barzakh, without that charity, I'll be somewhere else. But with this charity, I'm somewhere else. The destiny have changed, right? So it's a question of understanding the layers of what does it really mean by destiny being changed. There's a lawh mahfuz on the tablet. There are certain things. And the other thing is that, everything is instant. There's no something mentioned in the past, something happening now. Everything is happening at that very instant. That's why Einstein used to say there's no such thing as past, there's no such thing as future. And one of his final theories that he was working on was that everything is at that very instant, at that very moment. There's no past, there's no future. It's happening right now, okay? Which is very similar to some of the description of the alam-e-zar, which we talk about, whatsoever is happening in the alam-e-zar. When I've said, I'm Wilayat of Ali ibn Abi Talib, that's why I'm born in a Shia household. That's kind of tasawurat questions we always had. So Allama says that no, it's instant. It's happening at this very moment. It's vertical. So bilakhare, at the end of the day, the destiny changes. Yeah.
We'll end on this question. Why is the night of Qadr not known? So there's approximately.
Yes, that's a good one. Thank you for reminding. Because it's mysterious. And it is the nature of Allah being mysterious. That's why the Prophet would always say, "Oh Allah, increase in my knowledge, Rabbi zidni ilman." And also he would say, "Oh Allah, increase in my astonishment," because Allah is very mysterious. And that's why Amirul Mu'mineen says that I recognize Allah when my plans were foiled, or was incomplete, because that is a mystery. This man who knows inside out, so to speak, but even that, there's something more mysterious about Allah. So the night of Qadr as an essential, in its essence, it should be that way. It's natural. That's why at least the last 10 nights been kind of prescribed to search for the night of Qadr. And then, because of the blessings of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, the odd nights been mentioned. And then because of the blessing of Ahlul Bayt, the 19th, 21st, 23rd being mentioned, for example. Having said this, at the same time, the night of Qadr could be not even in the month of Ramadan for a person. Because the night of Qadr is the night that a person realizes the value, where he connects or she connects to the Jannah. Right? So it could be not necessarily in the night of Qadr. However, Allah facilitates that out of mercy. Right? The nuzul of destiny for a shaheed is the night of Qadr, is just the night before that he anticipates, for that divine, nuzul to take place. Right? So that aspect is there as well. Right? It's because it's mysterious. Yeah. Your brother have a question, right?
Can I just add to that?
Yes, please.
Why is the 27th night mentioned?
And the du'as, yes, we do find that.
So the other Sunnah recognizes
Yes.
they recognize 1921.
Thank you. I was gonna mention that, but I said just leave it there. Yes, the last 10 odd nights, the 25th, 27th, right, is also there, and even in the du'as of the daily du'as that we have. 27th night, the Imam mentions about the night of Qadr. Right? He mentions that, Allah give me the barakah or blessing on the 27th night, where the 23rd is already passed, based on the hadith that we have, 1923. But in the daily du'as of the month of Ramadan, on the 27th or 25th, I don't remember exactly, but after 23rd, he talks about the night of Qadr, which means that the authenticity of other nights is also there. However, these 13 we've been emphasized for certain purposes. Agha Jawadi used to, and the ulama, all of them, they used to search for the last 10 odd nights. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
With that, Sheikh, we'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of Husaini Youth to thank you for taking us on this journey with you. Inshallah, this was just like an introduction, and there's so many different elements that you've taken us through, and so many things that we can reflect over. And I think one of the key things that we also take from this seminar, especially for us as youth, is to really grasp on learning as well, and even on the books that you've mentioned. We ourselves were planning on starting a book club, so maybe these are some of the books that should be up there. Inshallah, you'll be there for us to go through as well. With that, can I just ask everyone to join me in reciting an al-salawat for the health and inshallah the tawfiq for the Sheikh to continue serving the Ahlul Bayt and the true message of Tawheed with the loudest salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Before we conclude the seminar, today's tabarruk, which you'll be happy to know, especially for those that were feeling a bit hot, is ice cream. And it's been donated for the ihsan sawab of the marhumin of Barwani family, Huda family, Fazil family, Rajabani family. All of your marhumin, those that have no one left to recite Surah Fatiha for them, and especially keeping in mind the blessed soul of Shaheed Sayyid Ayatollah Husaini Khamenei, in your Fatiha, and all of the Shuhada and Siddiqeen and the oppressed people, wherever they may be, please, if you can join me in reciting one Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Just a polite reminder that we have the Al-Quds Day bus, and we're getting a lot of sign-ups. It's a voluntary donation of £5, which covers refreshments. People are asking about the time we will leave. Inshallah, we'll leave at 10:30 a.m. This means for majority, will not be fasting past the parameter. So if you'd like to go on the men's side, please give your names to Brother Qasim Awan and Brother Hani Khanji. On the ladies' side, anyone in the Husaini Youth Committee, my wife as well, is taking names. With that, also just a reminder that these programs are supported through everyone's donation. So if you can donate, please do so. Inshallah, we can continue having more programs. We do have Dua Tawassul now with Sayyidina Ali al-Hakim, and we're very honored to have him in these nights. I've been told that it's not going to be a long recitation, but inshallah, like we get to have this time, and ice cream will also be served, so please do stay behind for that. Once again, we would like to thank Sheikh for his time, and inshallah, I will end with a dua. اسمك العظيم العظم الأجل الأكرم بعدد ما أحاط به علمك فأجرنا يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك يا قاضي الحاجات يا كافي المحمات إنك على كل شيء قدير رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات especially for all marhumin and shuhada, and also for your marhumin al-Fatiha ma salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If the sisters would like to stay, we will have the partitions still up, and then inshallah the serving of ice cream will also take place as well. I've been told it's a 15-minute program, so please do stay. We'll have the screen come down so everyone can follow along with Dua Rasul. Please, once again, it's a request that we keep all of the oppressed people, especially the people of the Islamic Republic of Iran, in our dua, and we do it for them, inshallah. So we'll be starting, we're just waiting for the UD team. If we can recite one loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
يا الله صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Please recite a Fatiha for all the Shuhada. Al-Fatiha. Jazakumullah khair jaza. Thank you again for your invitation here in the Peterborough Jamaat. It's a pleasure and honor to be here, and inshallah we will be at your service during the nights of Qadr. We start with dua tawassul and revolving this dua around Imam al-Mahdi Ajala Faraj al-Sharif, where we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten his reappearance through this dua. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma inni as'aluka wa atawajjahu ilayk بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه
يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباقر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي، أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد، أيها الهادي، أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي، أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا وصي الحسن والخلف الحجة، أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا، يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله، يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. Ask for your needs. يا سادتي وموالي، إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله، وتوسلت بكم إلى الله، واستشفعت بكم إلى الله، فاشفعوا لي عند الله، واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله، فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله، وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله، فكونوا عند الله رجائي، يا سادتي يا أولياء الله، صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين. وصل يا ربي على محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. صلوات. Please make a dua for all the ill people around the world. My wife's uncle had a heart attack 5 hours ago. So if he's just in surgery at the moment, if you can make a dua for them, for him and all the ill people, 5 times أما يجيب المضطر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. 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 وصل يا رب على محمد وآل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. صلوات.